Yo, what is up guys, Grim here, and today we're going to be covering league start plans for Synthesis. Now, it's been a while since a video came out, but man, Synthesis is looking good, and it's looking to introduce a bunch of new exciting ways to make currency and kind of play PoE, I guess. So in this video, we're going to go into the best ways, in my opinion, that you might be able to make currency in the new league, and really just have a blast in general. So we're going to go over a few things first about how I'm going to kind of play the league, and then we're going to get into some spreadsheet action and some min-max stuff, which I haven't seen anywhere on the internet yet. So to begin with, I think this league is definitely aimed more at solo players. All of the new league mechanics definitely revolve around playing solo, and I'll get into why that is in a second, but for that reason, I am 100%, once I hit maps and setup, going to be playing solo. I will not be playing with a group. I think it's going to be most fun to play solo. Number one reason is that you can't engage with the mechanic when you're in a group unless you're the party leader. You can't choose where the islands go. You can't pick any like chains or which memories to go for. So I think that's a lot of the fun. So I think that's number one. And number two, when we get into the modifiers on each island and memory fragment, a lot of those do not scale with increased item quantity. And what I'm guessing is they won't scale with group quantity either, because if they did, you'd be getting up to ridiculous numbers like 50% chance for every monster to drop a fossil. And I don't think that the way it's worded, it will work that way. So I don't think there's going to be too much of benefit outside of the normal quantity gains that you get in running the crevasse or crevasses memory fragments in a group. So as a result of that, I think I'm definitely, and a lot of other people will be playing solo. So with that in mind, let's get straight into the good stuff. I'm going to talk about the synthesis stuff first, and then we're going to talk about Atlas, and finally I'll talk a little bit about which build I will be playing. It's going to be a heavily modified version of previous builds I've played, but it's a little bit different. I'm not going to be touching Magic Find at all this league, so we're going full damage. And a lot of people have asked me to explain some things, so I'm going to explain that at the end of the video and how to get a tornado shot character to be able to kill like Uber Elder and do depth 1000 solo. So we'll talk about that at the end of the video. But first, let's get straight into these synthesis modifiers. So we're going to get into it, and I'm going to kind of like explain why I think it's going to be so powerful to run the dreams or the memory fragments. So to begin with, obviously I have all the modifiers which are known here to us, and it seems that when you stack all of these together, you can make increasingly large amounts of profit over each run. So my goal in the league will be to get to T16 maps as soon as possible and start farming a quick map as fast as I can to gather as many memory fragments as I can to stack up the maximum memory fragment chain, which is 25, and run those all in a big line and reap the rewards of that. So we're going to go into a bit more detail on why that'll be so profitable right now. For starters though, I want to explain why tier 16 will be the most profitable. A lot of the modifiers which happen when you place islands in a chain actually include base items. So base items in PoE are very important, and having a high iron level on those base items can often jack up the price immensely. So in this situation, we're seeing a lot of Elder items will drop in the dreams, and a lot of Shaper items will drop in the dreams. But not only that, we're also seeing the new items, the fractured and synthesized items, will be dropping in the dreams, and these items are mainly existing to be crafted on. And what that means is the people crafting will want high item level bases so they can make the best possible items with these new bases that they can. And that's only possible if you farm the highest tier maps, so tier 16 maps. It might make them a lot more difficult and a lot more hard to do those 25 long chains, but I think at the end of the day, a lot of the money from these dreams or memory fragments will come from the bases, and you're going to want to do those high tiers to get that. So part one of my money making strategy is to get to tier 16s and do tier 16 dreams in a chain of at least 20 if I can manage it, or 25. It depends on my gear. I'm not sure how hard they will be, but if it's anything like Delve, it'll become quite a challenge. So that could be pretty fun. That's going to be one way I will be making currency, and we're just going to kind of look at these mods a little bit because some of them are pretty damn insane. As we can see here, there is chances to drop fossils. It seems like the way they scale is kind of like the normal monsters drop like a few, magic more, and then the rare drop the most. As we can see here, it goes 5, 10, 20 on the elder items. So I'm assuming the rare monsters will have a very high chance to drop fossils. We also see things like currency shards and all of these other things. So I think that the memory fragments will be extremely lucrative, so clearing maps as fast as possible will be majorly important. So we're going to see maps that were really heavily abused in leagues like Delve, like City Square and stuff like that, come into play once again. And we're really going to see those maps shine again, especially on tier 16. So yeah, tons of really cool mods here. We'll be going into way more detail in the future on these modifiers once I actually get in the game and start understanding them, but this is just a quick preview here. So do T16s, try and get as high as chains as you can, and you should be looking pretty good for currency. The other thing in Synthesis is the reward rooms. Obviously there's a ton of different unique reward rooms which are scattered around, which are described as deep memories or something like that, and you will be able to find scarabs there. That is the main one, in my opinion, that you'll be going for, and probably the currency room. But yeah, that's going to see a large influx of scarabs in the economy again to kind of counterbalance the betrayal rotating out. So yeah, it could be pretty interesting. This will definitely be a massive moneymaker, and you want to be running these as soon as you get them. Don't sleep on this mechanic, in my opinion. So next thing I want to talk about is the Atlas and the new divination cards coming out. So in terms of the Atlas, not a whole lot has changed. Normally I'm really into this kind of stuff and I'm like min-maxing it. I'm putting like a sextant on there to fake where all the radiuses will be and all that kind of stuff. But I gotta say, GGG has definitely through, like, for better or worse, made the Atlas a very even playing field for every map, and it doesn't seem like anything but the locations will change, and perhaps the odd map will dip in and out of the red territory. And that's what we're starting to see. So most of the maps that were good last league will be the same maps that are good this league. There's a few exceptions that I will note here. Lair, which used to be a red map, is now a yellow map, and Burial Chambers, which was relegated to the red zone, is now back out and available to be farmed. So red maps aren't completely off limits from farming, but I wouldn't recommend it solo, which is what I will be doing, because the red sextant price is just too high. But basically what I'm saying here is, in terms of map options, you'll have everything you did last league available, but you'll also now have Burial Chambers and Lair at your disposal as a solo player in an affordable setting, and both of these maps are obviously insane for currency gains. One drops the Rigwald's Quills card, and obviously the other one drops the Doctor card. So that's kind of the boring part. In terms of which map I will be doing, I'm not 100% sure yet. It really depends how lucrative the synthesis mechanic is. If it's just that insane, I might just run tier 16 City Square, as it is the fastest map possible on the Atlas to run league mechanics. There's nothing faster than I've tried and tested everything. You can get like 40-second clears and even faster if you kill the boss. So yeah, it's going to be really, really excellent. And of course, I just want to go into detail about how I'll be sustaining T16s. You need to leverage absolutely everything to do it. I've done multiple tests, you guys can check out my channel, but my findings, the conclusion is you do need to use Prophecies, Sextants, Zana, and just be making sure you clear the whole map and kill the map boss, and you will be able to sustain and over sustain. My tests show that I get about 20% over sustain on my map. So if I run 100, I get around 120. So you guys should be able to sustain if you leverage everything. There'll be another video coming up on that though, but I do have some on my channel already. So yeah, in terms of the Atlas, it's kind of like pick what you want. All the old maps that were good are still good. So moving on, I do want to talk about the new div cards though, because those will and may affect what maps are the best to run, in terms of like making currency and all that stuff. So outside of all the other stuff that drops in T16s, the divination cards are often like the icing on the cake, and will influence where you go after you consider stuff like Elder Influence Ping Pong and all of the density, everything like that. That's when you just when you consider the divination cards. So there's a few new ones here which I'll talk about. The first one I want to talk about is the monochrome one. So this is completely insane. This is definitely one of the most insane and most requested divination cards, in my opinion, that's been around for a while. If I was going to make a div card, this would be it. Sextants will always be one of the highest used consumables in the game, if not the highest, by more experienced players, and this is going to make them far more abundant as long as this card drops from a map or some sort of mapping setting. Obviously, these can end up dropping from pretty obscure places, but if this is in a map, chances are a lot of people will farm it, just because sextants are basically so lucrative. Even if we only got white sextants from this divination card, it would still be worth 3 to 4 chaos each divination card. So it's insanely profitable, and wherever this divination card drops will probably be a very lucrative map to farm up. So monochromes, definitely want to keep your eye out for. And the cool thing about divination cards is the more common ones often will end up earning more due to the fact that they just drop more than stuff like the Doctor and ends up anyway. So that's pretty cool. And the next one I want to talk about is the Seeker. So this is a little bit of a lower kind of income one. Now, doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, it just needs to be more common, but there's no way in my opinion that this would be more common than monochrome. I just don't see that happening because annulment orbs are equal rarity to exalted orbs, so this feels more like a Saint's Treasure kind of rarity. So I wouldn't expect this one to be target farmed or anything like that, because annulments aren't as valuable as exalted orbs. So yeah, this is just an interesting one, but if it's super common, it might see some farming use, and it can also be in another zone which already has a good div card in it, which might make this just like even better for that map. So it could be pretty cool there. The next one I want to talk about is the Landing. So this one generates beachhead maps. The beachhead is not necessarily a farming strategy, but it is a very good map to farm. It drops a lot of good stuff. So beachheads are always around 10 to 20 C. So this divination card will always be valuable. It's pretty good divination card, and I can see people farming this, which may make whatever map it drops in more sought after. And the last one I want to talk about here is the big one, which is 7 years bad luck. So this is, each divination card of this is going to be worth about half an exalted orb, which isn't heaps, but it's definitely not bad either, depending on how rare it is. So it's going to give you 1/13 of a mirror shard. Now my gut's telling me that this is going to be a pretty damn rare divination card, but then again, it may not always, it may not be as well. I'd say it's probably going to be about as rare as the Saint's Treasure or Abandoned Wealth in rarity, but this one will definitely be farmed if it is in a good map setting. If it's like in a map which has high density and isn't like Backtrack City, I'll be very interested to see where this one drops, or if it's from a boss or something like that. So keeping in mind that those divination cards may drop in a good setting, may drop in maps that already have good cards and all that kind of stuff, we may see the meta shift once the league starts. But other than that, it's just going to be your same old maps, as every map actually does have access to the maximum amount of sextants now, and the only maps that are penalized by the move are ones that got put into the red area or stayed in the red area. So that's going to be that. In terms of Atlas, that's kind of just pick what you want. So now the final thing I want to talk about here is the build. So due to the fact that I want to push synthesis to the limit, and I really want to make sure I'm farming T16s, and I believe that's the best way to make money now, I have completely changed all this magic find on my build into obviously damage. So I'll do a full guide about all of this and all your options at a later date, but a lot of people always ask me what I'm doing like for a league start. So here it is. This is my, oh, my house is haunted. This is my league start build. So I will be playing Deadeye, and I will be playing a either Scourge Arrow or Tornado Shot. Obviously Scourge Arrow will provide some more damage, but I think Tornado Shot is the better all-rounder. This build can do pretty much everything in the game. I haven't tried Uber Elder, but it can do Shaper, all the Guardians, all the Red Guardians, up to depth 1000. So I would be very surprised if this thing couldn't tackle Synthesis in its entirety. So just to quickly go over it, the notable things that you guys are going to want to know is it's a very high it's very expensive build, has a lot of very expensive uniques in it, but once you do get this build going, there is nothing that farms tier 16s faster than this. There's nothing that goes faster in Delve in terms of clearing deep delves, and it is one of the best team play builds in the game, and it is also very flexible. It can run any layout. So if you want something that is basically the ultimate weapon, unless you want to like one-shot bosses, this is definitely the best thing, as long as you don't mind getting the currency for it. So a few notable things that you guys are going to want to know, and which I want to explain, is the Unnatural Instinct Jewel. So this is a unique that has kind of been slept on by a lot of people. It is definitely an expensive unique, and people do know its worth, but a lot of people don't include this in a lot of their builds. This is generally the best place to put it, but what it allows you to essentially do is save a ton of skill points around the tree. So everything that's allocated in this radius, you will get for free. So all of these nodes count as allocated in this area, all of them but the big nodes. So this gives you a ton of crit multi. You can actually see what it gives you there. All this critical strike multi, all this movement speed, all this attack speed, and all that stuff. So I wanted to mention that quickly because that is a big addition to the build. Obviously, I want to talk about a few other things, and that is just over on the build here. So the other thing I wanted to talk about for you guys is the addition of the Xerxes Heart. So everything else is pretty self-explanatory, but this item as well is very expensive, but it is very build defining. So this skill here is basically going to allow you to scale your attack speed into infinity. With this build, you're going to be able to keep up Soul Eater 100% of the time in maps, and a lot of the time in Delve, almost 100% of the time in Delve as well. And what that'll allow you to do essentially is to just obliterate everything regardless of how much health it has. And that's how you really do get up to Delve 1000. Nothing gets the opportunity to hit you or anything like that, and you shatter everything or freeze everything. So this, combined with the rest of the package here, is obviously very powerful, and I would highly recommend you guys trying it out. I've recommended this build to quite a few of my other friends, and they have loved it in Delve. It's definitely, in my opinion, one of the smoothest builds to get to 1000 at a very quick pace. You can farm the Sulfite fast, and you can get down there fast. And it's going to be really good in Synthesis, in my opinion, as well, as it seems time and running through the instances will be of value there as well. So that's going to be that, guys. That's kind of like the introduction to my Synthesis content. I will be doing daily updates on everything that I discover. I'm going to do a more kind of vloggy kind of thing. Like if I discover something cool, I'm just going to mention it in a daily update to you guys. And I will be doing a lot more crafting this league as well. I'm going to be doing focus on crafting. And that's going to be all I have for you guys in this one. I'll see you guys real soon in the next one. And just a quick reminder, if you guys do use my loot filter, that will be updated by the time you're seeing this video. And I'll see you guys in Synthesis, and hopefully you guys tune into the daily updates. Cheers.